when it comes time to look at weaknesses that a man has, men are just not socialized to even oftentimes be publicly in touch with anything that's happening to them. For example, when a male comes into the office, they don't have emotional problems. They have stress.
Okay.
It's very different, right? So if I said to a guy, "Oh man, how's everything emotionally?" Well, there's no problem. Do you have stress? Yeah, yeah, I've got stress,
Mm,
right? And so somehow that just doesn't fit. For a guy to come in and tell me he's got any problems with his sex life, it is a point of cultural vulnerability for a man. It shows that he's weak in his mind. I don't believe this. In his mind. So when he comes out and he talks, he doesn't want to talk about it because it's part of his manhood that he's talking about. Somehow he's laying himself out. So if we start talking, and we should be having this conversation about the role that a guy plays, it's just based on old cultural bias. Because I can tell you guys are coming in and they tell me, but it's kind of how the doctor approaches it. So
but also
usually
you're a male, which I'm sure helps.
it's true. And it also depends on the culture of the male too, by the way.
Okay.
Like if we go based on Latin culture, where there might be in some cases a bit more machismo, or African American males where it might be that way. It just depends on where they're from. In some places, it's less safe to say you have a problem than other places. So we just try to make it safe. And usually, after a few days of meeting with them, doing examination, usually the second or third visit, when I've established a rapport with them, I go, "How's your sex life?" And then they'll say, "Oh, it could be better. So older guys are way more in touch with it because they've now plummeted really low on terms of their testosterone and they need help.
Right.
So
Yeah,
they'll
they're a
come
little bit
in.
everyone about it.
Oh yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. But a younger guy who had one or two problems, he's not going to talk about that. But an older guy, he'll come in and he'll say, "Hey, what do you have for this and this and this?" And that's oftentimes when guys will come in, by the way, usually when they're having problems having sex.
Okay.
It's extreme pain or they can't have sex. It's
Wow.
pretty interesting.
Okay. All right.
And there's lots that they can still do about that. That's the most important part of this conversation.
Well, that's kind of what
Right.
I was going to say. You want to, I mean, right now we have ladies here, right? And you can speak to the ladies or speak to the men. But what can we do to help these fellas reverse these declines or halt them?
Well, first is really good communication because guys do well when there's really good communication about with his partner about sex, even though he might not seem like he wants that up front. But communication could be with the hands, it could be a hug, it could be a kiss, it could be greater affection, it could be a compliment, it could stroke the guy's ego. These things, believe it or not, pick up the level of testosterone in a male. And so it's when we're distant, not affectionate, and not giving our man compliments when we might start to see some of these changes.
Talk
And it's
about the
very interesting.
power of a woman.
Yes, the woman's got the power, no
The
doubt.
the touch, the kind
But
word.
yeah, we didn't even get to sex yet. We're just talking about like a foreplay kind of attitude where you hug and kiss and do all the things that show affection to the man. He needs that. And is something that actually over time will boost his testosterone levels and help him out. He still has a responsibility, take care of himself and eat properly and do all the things that are gonna build healthy cells. But it's a group effort. We know it goes the same way for women too. The guy has to show affection and give her compliments, and it goes both ways.
Sure. I love that advice because that is so simple and so basic. And I do find that I feel like a lot of women are asking me for advice, and much of it is extremely fundamental. It's
Yeah,
like, girl, do you sleep? How's your
yeah.
diet? How are your friendships? Like, is it good energy? And here you are telling us, can you ladies touch your man? Tell him he looks good. Validate what he's doing right.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, some of the advice seems like it's obvious, and I've thought about this over the years, but there's so much confusion out there that sometimes people have a difficult time ciphering through the whole thing to try to figure out, okay, is that right or is that incorrect? The food is one of the biggest things. It's an insane challenge to go to the grocery store and read labels. And what I tell people, if you're reading labels, you're doing it wrong.
We shouldn't have a label.
No, it's really that is the simplicity of it. If you're reading labels, you're doing something wrong. And all these prepared foods that are here, there are things in there that disrupt function and hormones in a female's body. And
Mhm.
once you start disrupting hormones in a female's body, you may get a longer runway to becoming pregnant.
Right. I want to bring this up to you because this is something that I realized and I'd like your take on it.
Mhm.
When I was 15 years old, I was put on birth control pills, and it was not to manage period cramps, right? And my parents didn't challenge it because it was our doctor, and he actually had delivered me, and he was a family doctor. But when I looked back over my track from my being a teenager through my 20s, I realized that not a single doctor, not a one, actually gave me the basics of, about fragrances disrupting hormones or processed foods. You can smell us coming into the doctor's office. You smell our clothes, you smell our hair, you smell. Not a single doctor took the 5 or 10 minutes to say, hey, these are some things I think you should know. Now, whether I would listen to them at that time, I don't know, but
Right,
I am for sure that nobody bothered to mention it.
right.
What is going on?
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so before I say this, it's not good news. So, but you can do, again, this is about what we could do about it, right? But in order for you to do something about it, you got to kind of know about it. So initially it's bad news, but I got to say it, right? Our government has approved some 75,000 chemicals for use in the food, the clothing, the water, and the air by factories. Many of those chemicals comprise things that we use on a daily basis. So we're not going to focus on all 75,000 because that's overwhelming. But just understand that a chemical can pretend or mimic being something that we call estrogen. In about 2001, there was an article in the Pittsburgh Gazette, and they were pulling fish out the water and they couldn't tell what sex they were. Three rivers right around Pittsburgh. And that was because of the plants dumping chemicals in the water that mimic estrogens, and they were feminizing the fish. So now we fast forward to 26 years later, and we hear about different types of challenges that people have, even younger people, or the feminizing of males, and we could go on. And this is because of these hormone disrupting chemicals. So it's extremely important that you eat a clean diet because you're in an environment, you're bathed in these chemicals. And for a woman who's trying to get pregnant, it's even more important. So one of the biggest things that you can do is police your exposure to plastic, especially the single-use plastics. It's in everything. It is in the perfume you wear. It is a part of some of the food that you eat. There isn't a single man, woman, or a child on this planet who doesn't have a plastic burden, and those plastics are estrogenic. So what we want to do is we want to just avoid as much as we can the use of those.
Okay, so
And
hold on, let's rewind. Let's define clearly single-use plastics.
single-use plastics are, well, if you've gone to your local grocery store and you wonder why they don't give plastic bags anymore, those are single-use plastics, right? And so anything that comes in a package in the store where you use it one time and throw it away, if it is intimate with your food, some of that plastic may be getting into the food on a chemical level. And so it's also another reason why it's so important to eat fresh, because if you eat fresh, those foods haven't been put into a container that goes into a freezer, that goes into a microwave, that goes into your body. You see, I started testing blood for plastic in probably about 98 and was shocked at what came out. We would have guys come in, they have prostate cancer, or they'd be trying to clean up, and we order their blood work and it come back loaded with styrofoam. Say, oh, you like to eat out a lot, guy, to one guy. He goes, how do you know that? I said, I can see the styrofoam in your blood.
So we're talking
And
about the
so,
wrappers in our food, the
yes, we
forks,
are.
the K
Yeah,
cup. Somebody here was asking me about K cups, right? Like the coffee.
right.
So
Yep.
now
Those
do we
things,
care? Like, because some of these plastics run through hot things, right? Like I've seen it.
right,
The chicken roasting in the store, sitting in the
right.
plastic. We don't want that.
No, you don't.
The K
And the
cup
thing is,
thing that's running plastic hot, especially, we don't want it.
you don't want plastic intimate with anything, especially a liquid or an oily liquid, right? If it's like a, rice and it's in a plastic bag, I mean, it's still single use, but it's not as bad as say oil in the plastic jug,
Okay.
right?